Hey guys, it's Tuesday, it's February 28th, and this is Newswave. So let's get right into it with Shadow of War. WB comes out, puts out the trailer after we just talked about the leak yesterday. I guess possibly the Target leak maybe pushed them forward a little more than they wanted to. Who knows though, maybe they were set to announce this game today, or yesterday that is, and here we go. So the trailer does show us that it looks like it's going to be bigger and better than the first one. There's going to be a lot more happening, and you know what, that's all you need from Shadow of Mordor itself. It was a very good game overall. Just expand on the gameplay, expand on the world. Enemies need to be bigger, more diverse, better, and it looks that way. I mean, it looks like we're going to keep that Nemesis system in check, and it's going to just be bigger and just more epic overall, and I'm excited for it. Now, we did get some information. Otherwise, we got August 22nd, 2017 as a release date. Great, that's a little further into the fall, but that's when a lot of games do start to come out. That makes sense. And we found out we are getting gameplay March 8th. I assume the gameplay will probably be streamed, or maybe there will be just a full gameplay video overall. Doesn't matter. I'm excited to see what it looks like. I think it's going to be very cool. Again, this is probably only going to be on PS4, Xbox One, PC, obviously. There won't be any 360 or PS3 version. Those are long gone now, so we got to move on. But I assume it's just going to look that much better since it is only on these consoles, not for the old generation ones. And the scope looks huge. I mean, just the trailer alone looks great. Check it out if you haven't. It's up on YouTube now, and that is Shadow of War coming out August 22nd. So this next bit of news is very interesting. It's actually about a bill that's trying to be passed in a couple of states now that actually affects console repairs. So you guys probably know by now, I actually would do a lot of console repairs. I still do them. And what they're proposing here is very, very interesting, because what they want to happen is it would have to become forced almost. It'd be illegal not to, basically. It'd be forced for manufacturers to provide replacement parts, which is very difficult to get because you rely on third parties to give them to you. So you got to go on eBay or Amazon and buy them from places that actually take them from not working systems, but scrapped systems overall. So you get a Blu-ray drive out of there, you get the HDMI port off of it. There's all kinds of stuff you can pull out of broken systems. Even if they don't turn on, there's a lot of parts. These companies will then scrap these systems, pull all these working parts, throw out the rest or recycle the rest, whatever they do with them, and then they sell them that way. The other thing that these companies would have to provide us, other than parts, they have to provide us documentation, like service manuals, on how to get these systems apart and fix them. So of course, Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, none of them want this to happen because they actually get fair amounts of money from us sending our consoles away to them and then getting replacement ones back after paying them $100, $150 sometimes. It depends on what's wrong with it, what the system is, etc. But now they won't be able to do that. I mean, they can, but most people will then have the documentation. They'll be able to order the replacement part, and if they're at least somewhat handy, they can do it themselves. Now, there will be some stuff that will be very difficult to fix. Obviously, if there's an issue with a chip on the motherboard that is subject to like the BGA solder balls underneath of a chip, you're not going to fix that at home. You're probably going to send it in and they'll send you one back. But like, let's say your Blu-ray drive stops reading all of a sudden. You just order a whole new drive and follow the documentation to take this screw out, take that screw out, and just slap it back together when you're done, and your system works again. So, of course, like I said, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, any of these companies, they don't want this to happen. They have a pretty solid monopoly on this right now, and it's going to be something that all three will probably work together to try to stop whatever means they can. So keep an eye on that. I think it's very important that this bill does pass because it will only help consumers and hurt large companies, which is good because we're the consumers, obviously. We keep these guys in business. They don't want this to happen because they count, as weird as it sounds, guys, I'm not even kidding this, they count on the sales of people whose systems stop working. As bad as that sounds, that is the case a lot of times. They don't want to sell you one system for an entire generation. They want to sell you like 3 systems, you know, one in the beginning, one when it breaks, and then one when their revision comes out. So I hope this happens. This will be great to have documentation. A lot of times I have to figure out and create my own documentation almost on this stuff since working all the way back in the shop in the old days. So this would be so cool to get a documentation from Nintendo, from Microsoft, from Sony on how to repair their stuff. I hope this bill passes. I'm not really sure when it is going through or anything. I'll have to keep an eye on this. It is kind of a developing story as we speak now, but I'll keep an eye on it. I think it's a very important bill to bring up and keep an eye on, so I will let you guys know if any updates happen. And guys, it looks like LG is going to be entering the VR headset game, and they're actually developing their own right now, and we'll have it on display at GDC. Of course, that's the Game Developers Conference, which is actually coming up pretty quickly now, but they're actually working on this with Valve. And a lot of companies have reached out, press company sites have reached out to Valve for things like specs or pricing, availability, anything like that. All Valve has said is that there will be press units available to try, especially at GDC. They'll be showing it off heavily, apparently. And this is going to be, according to Valve, a wired headset unit that does run off of a PC. I think Valve has wanted to get a VR unit for themselves completely, and this sounds like a way for them to do that. Partnering with LG is probably a good idea, since the other two are Vive is HTC, obviously Oculus has a couple people in the pot right now with Microsoft and Facebook and everything around that. So for them to go out, find someone who would help them make a VR unit makes sense. And of course, if it does well with Steam, they can really market it and probably make a good bit of money and help push that VR game along. More people are in it with VR, the better. That's why this Oculus injunction is such a big blow to VR, because you need a lot of people to push this entire VR thing to an actual place of interest for mainstream consumers. Oh, and guys, we talked about how the Switch will be available at GameStops even if you didn't pre-order it at midnight. Well, apparently Best Buy is also getting more Switches, which is interesting. I don't know if Nintendo is just producing more than they said they'd have, and it's just going over their pre-order allotment, but Best Buy will have the exact same effect, where they will have more Switches past their pre-orders. However, you're going to want to line up early. They are saying that people may start lining up as early as 6 p.m. at Best Buy to get these things. That makes sense. People always line up early for these things, especially if you did not get a pre-order yet. You may want to get out to Best Buy and at least figure out if your Best Buy, your local one, will actually have these Switches, because if they do, you're going to want to figure out a game plan to get there at Thursday at 5 p.m. Honestly, get off work, get some food, and go get lined up if you want the Switch and you don't have it pre-ordered. So this next bit of news is actually kind of interesting. It sounds like Twitch is going to partner with game developers and allow you to buy the game that you're watching on Twitch. Now, this to me makes a lot of sense. As much as developers want to claim that Let's Players hurt their business, I don't think it does. This is going to just give them a great place to advertise their game, because the person's playing it in front of the end consumer. And if that consumer likes the game, they can play it. I think developers need to stop being so worried about this, because honestly, guys, if your game is good, people will buy it. If it is bad, they will think twice about buying it. That's the thing. Stop. If you're a developer and you're concerned your game is bad, don't do underhand tactics to try to sell it. Just make sure you make it a good game, and people will support the cause. So Let's Players can only help if the game's good. I understand it can hurt if the game's bad, but if you're releasing a bad game, you should know it probably won't sell as well as if it was a good game. So yes, Let's Players are good for the business. I think this only helps because now there's a place to click and buy the game, and the streamer you're watching gets, it says, about 5% of the game sale, which if it's a $6 game, that's not bad. It's not great, obviously, because that's, $3, but it's still better than nothing. And we did get more information about Bomberman for the Switch specifically, online features, resolution, frame rate. We'll go over all that right now. All this information comes from justpause.us. They had a big interview that will apparently be up tomorrow, or today, actually. Yeah, today. It'll be up today, the 28th. All about how they went through and talked to him about Bomberman. They got a couple things from him, though, which is really cool. They found out that there will be online mode for battle mode only, not co-op. Co-op is all done locally on your system in front of you. It can't be done over the internet. But we did find out there will be actual lobbies for matchmaking, so you can just matchmake with total strangers and play no problem with Bomberman, which is great. There'll also be a lobby system if you want to have friends jump in, and then you guys can battle with other people. That's a cool idea. I like that matchmaking is just going to be a thing from now on if you want for a Switch game, since the Wii U did have some struggles with having that across the board. I like that. There'll also be a couple other things, such as the resolution being full 1080 or 720 on the handheld mode, and it will stick at 30 frames. It will not be 60 frames. They said it's going to be a consistent 30 frames a second. And we already know Bomberman's coming at launch. It just sounds like it's going to be pretty good. If you're a fan of Bomberman, I would check it out. Again, that's going to be out in 3 days now. And the last bit of news comes from John Cena, actually. We talked about this before, how Nintendo themselves hired Cena, essentially, John Cena, to be a PR person and tell us mainstreamers or Americans about the Switch and how great it's going to be. And listen, John Cena is a good spokesperson. I think that's obvious. If you saw his Instagram post that people were talking about before, I think he gets it. He understands the internet and memes and everything, and that's awesome. He posted himself, himself as being invisible, holding the Switch, because that's kind of his thing. You can't see him and everything. I think that's actually really funny on his part. That's great. But he did have an entire interview. I'll leave the link in the description if you guys want to read through the interview. I'm just going to give you some quick little tidbits here. He talked about how growing up he played the NES. He loved Baseball Stars, which, by the way, Baseball Stars, awesome game. He loved Super Tecmo Bowl, also a good game. And then he goes on to say that he hadn't played Zelda since the 8-bit era with the gold cartridges, so that's a long time. But he said he jumped into Breath of the Wild, played it for about 30 minutes, and loved it. Loved every bit of it. Now, again, he is hired to pretty much say that, so at least he has some background knowledge here. It's very clear he has not played many video games since then, and, you know, that's fine. You don't really have to play video games to be a spokesperson. That really, Nintendo is hiring him for his image and his following, at least people who will listen to him, which is a lot of people, and he did a good job. He did. He went with SI.com and told them all about the Switch and how great it is. So there you go, Nintendo, good investment. There's a lot of video and pictures of him floating around playing the Switch. A lot of people went there and said he's a really cool guy and they had fun. So, you know, Nintendo, if you have to hire somebody to sell to Americans or just in general over here, you did a good job. John Cena was a good pick, and I think they will benefit greatly from this just because it's going in SI, which is, of course, Sports Illustrated. That's more mainstream. That's for people who maybe don't look at the hardcore games. Maybe they play Madden or just, you know, again, mainstream games, little games here and there. And the Switch may appeal to some of these people who have not played games heavily since the Super Mario days or the original 8-bit Zelda game like he's talking about. So, you know what? Good stuff, and of course they have this dude with huge muscles obviously sitting there telling him how great the Switch is in something like Sports Illustrated. People will probably pay attention to it, so again, great on Nintendo. I'm just looking forward to March 3rd. That's it for Newswave, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think about anything we talked about today, whether it's the Shadow of War trailer. I'm sure you're probably excited if you played Shadow of Mordor like I did to get your hands on this. Not until August, though. It's a little while, so we'll probably see some gameplay, like I said, March 8th. More stuff obviously come E3, and we'll go from there. Are you concerned about this repair bill not passing? I think it would open up a whole world of information for people with having to have diagnostic manuals online. That would be great, especially for people like me, obviously, who have to figure this stuff out on their own. Are you happy that John Cena was the face of the Switch, at least in the United States? And, of course, I'm sure it translates to other parts of the world as well. Let me know what you guys think down below. I will see you next time.